guys about early childhood education. So for many children, preschool programs are their first formal education experiences. Children who have not had the opportunity to learn from key early experiences prior to kindergarten face significant challenges learning to read. This is according to Greenwood 2011. Early childhood education is shown to be greatly beneficial, so it is only fair that all children have free access to it. We're going to look at 3 main points. We're going to look at the benefits of early childhood education. Then we're going to look at what it means for something to be fair and how that relates to early childhood education being free. And then we'll also look at a couple of opposing viewpoints. You might be wondering why you should all care about this. Well, specifically, each generation after us is the generation of the future. And if there's a way that helps the generation become more successful, shouldn't we all care? Unfortunately, my child did not get this opportunity. Even though I tried everything that I could, and because of that, it's just not fair to her that she couldn't attend an early childhood education program. More than half of U.S. children receive no early childhood education, many because their parents simply cannot afford it. In 2011, the average cost for a 4-year-old in full-time professional childcare ranged from about $4,000 to $15,000 a year, according to O'Leary 2014. So let's take a look at some of those benefits. These benefits are being noticed not only by parents and educators, but are also being noticed by politicians, Republicans, and Democrats alike. Also, there's been studies that economists have done, and also psychologists. Some of the benefits are, there are significant gains in emotional or cognitive development. Early childhood education can also help prevent an achievement gap between children. It also improves their educational outcomes for that child later on in their lives. It also increases the labor force later on in their life and helps them get higher incomes. And it also later on reduces their criminal involvement. According to Harkin 2013, we know that learning starts at birth. And the preparation for learning starts before birth. 80% of a child's brain develops between birth and 3 years, with much of the child's intellect, personality, and skills developed before they begin learning. A solid initial investment in young children will save us billions in future spending on remedial education, criminal justice, health, and welfare programs. So earlier I stated in my thesis that it's only fair that all children have free access to it. So how do I label something that is as fair? The standard that I use in the judgment of fairness is also similar to a definition that the Merriam-Webster Dictionary gives as treating people in a way that does not favor some over others. So having early childhood education not available to every child is thus unfair because other children, the children that can afford it, are being favored over the other children, the children who cannot afford it. Along with this, there's also a limited amount of centers that do provide early childhood education, and because there's a limited amount, there's extensive waiting lists, thus leading to more children not being able to attend. Excuse me. And those children that don't get to attend, how is that fair to them? What do you say to a child when they ask you why they can't go to preschool? Or why, once they do enter kindergarten, why they're so behind their peers already? No child should be subjected to being disadvantaged if there is a way to prevent it when it comes to education. Heckman, no date. By the time a child enters kindergarten, the difference in school readiness is already well established. And the gap widens by less than 10% between kindergarten and high school. So a couple of opposing points that I did come across is always, well, isn't it the parent's responsibility to have your child kindergarten ready? Yes, this is true, but not all parents, unfortunately. As we can see, some of them are single parents, and a lot of those Single parents end up working 1, 2, maybe 3 jobs, and the time just isn't there for the amount of attention that a kid needs for education. Another one is about like taxpayers. Why should they have to pick up the tab for more schooling of, you know, all of the children in the country? Well, kind of like what I stated before of like why we should care, because those children are going to be our future generation, and we're all part of society, so it's all going to affect us in one way. According to Cyril, although there's considerable uncertainty with respect to the benefit estimates from a statistical point, one can be quite confident that the benefits exceed the costs. It is worth pointing out, however, that although benefits do exceed costs, the costs do occur immediately, while the benefits are realized only as the years pass and the child matures into adolescence and adulthood. So with all things considered, early childhood education is not a topic that should be overlooked. The results have shown improvements in a number of areas of a child's growth and future outcomes. Sure, it's probably not perfect, but nothing is perfect. Children are the drivers of our future, so any type of improvement in their lives that helps society is an advantage. Early childhood education is shown to be greatly beneficial, so it's only fair that all children have free access to it. We all have a responsibility to take time and see the importance of early childhood education, the effects it can have on children's society as a whole. It ultimately impacts all of us in one way or another. Therefore, everyone should have access regardless of their demographics.
Bridget, you'll have a counter argument. I had a really hard time forming one for yours because I'm on the same page. So I guess my question would be, assuming that if this was implemented and it used taxpayer money, do you think it should be required that everyone attend early childhood education, or just it should be accessible?
I think it should ultimately be required, similar to the way they do education K through 12, because if there's that many gains from it, I think that's the only way that you could possibly touch every child.
Bridget, what is your question?
Okay, so how do you think that this would impact our economy, considering that we're already kind of on a pretty tight budget and the whole idea of schooling?
Yeah, it would definitely, like I said, you would definitely see a lot of the costs like right away, you know, but I think the problem with like a lot of like even just like businesses, everybody looks at, you know, what's gonna happen right now, but stuff takes time. So I think just if you look at it and look at to the long run, how it's gonna affect society in the long run, it outweighs what's going on in the beginning.